You're feeling this, I'm feeling this, we're all feeling this. We're in a trust recession. Our bull radars are the highest they've ever been because of the amount of hype and hyperbole that is unsubstantiated by so-called experts online that aren't really grounded in anything.
I'm honestly starting to get tired of all these health food experts. If I followed every advice of the guests on the show, I'd have to change my diet every week. How do you elaborate all of these contradictory statements from all of your different guests? I watch all the episodes and I find it really hard.
It feels like we're losing the ability to critically evaluate or try and pursue source materials that actually back up some of the claims that are being made online. And as a result, we just have a natural skepticism towards anything we see presented in front of us. And yet we're in an era that for $20 a month, we have access to hyper-speed research assistants that can substantiate or refute any information that you're sharing with your audience, clients, or customers. So in order to help you cut through all the hyperbole and hype and actually build real trust, respect, and authority with audiences that are just fatigued and sick of crap being thrown out, I'm gonna share a simple 3-step methodology that I've been using that you can plug into your creative process, whether it's for copy, content, landing pages, or curriculums that you're building for your students. So this very sharp and handsome 70-year-old, I'm not talking about me here, I'm talking about the gentleman in the beautiful blue suit. His name is Dr. John Demartini. He's a modern polymath and he's committed his entire life towards raising human potential and conscious awareness. Now, he runs a 2-day seminar called The Breakthrough Experience. I invested $2,400 to attend it and absolutely was worth it and so much more. He's a voracious reader and he shared that at one time he was purchasing and consuming anywhere from 70 to 80 books a week. This was an era of the 80s and 90s, like pre-internet, pre-AI. He was researching in a much more analog manual process than what we have today. And nowadays, he's committed to mastering, learning, and teaching thousands across the world of everything he's learned. However, I think what really stood out for me was that he does it with just a phone, a tablet, and a laptop. He admitted in this seminar that it's not practical for him to travel the world with 30,000 books with him everywhere he goes. And yet at 70 years old, he's fully embracing this technology to continue expanding the limits of his knowledge. I don't think I've ever seen someone so lit up and inspired by what their work. He covered every ology under the sun that was well beyond my brain's capacity and found such an incredible way of just synthesizing and simplifying the language into layman's terms. As you may see, this is literally an excerpt of some of the pages of notes that I furiously tried to keep up. You won't make any sense of them right now because he just kept building and building on these models. Now, every 20 or 30 minutes, he introduced a concept that was slightly outside the scope of what the seminar was. But he didn't just leave us high and dry. He actually prompted each and every one of us that knew that we had laptops and tablets and phones. And he said, look this up, go make a log of it and go come to your own conclusions. The reason why this really stuck with me and something I want to share with you thinking about your audience going forwards is that you don't want to insult their intelligence. You don't just want to spoon feed them and just tell them to blindly accept the conclusions that you've come to. Actually challenge them and maybe even disarm them and say, hey, this is what I've done from my research, but you go out and you find your own conclusions. Here's all my sources. Here's the information you need to look at. You research it and come to your own. I think in an era of guruism, honestly, Dr. John Demartini felt like the anti-guru. He had just had 30, 40, 50 years worth of information put in front of us, but he still had the humility to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. This is just everything I've absorbed and learned and pieced together from my personal experience. So it's like a switch went off in my brain and made me realize, hey, I need to be more thorough and more diligent with how I research and substantiate my own conclusions and wonder if I pick them up from just hearing them blindly online or from people growing up and never actually questioning what was the source material where this very idea, concept, or theory actually originated from, and is it still valid right now in 2025 onwards? So being very inspired by his humility and willingness to accept that he doesn't know everything and he's still learning at 70 years old, I thought, you know what? I need to be doing my best to leverage current technology to catch up on all these nuggets that he's sharing. So step number 1 is to open a dedicated chat thread just to researching concepts specific to the area that you're focusing on. So for example, if you're in fitness and you're looking at ways of weight loss, or if you're a mindset coach and you're helping people, let's say, reframing or overcome limiting beliefs, if you're in relationships, communication, content creation, branding, public speaking, whatever your thing is, your zone of authority, open up a dedicated chat thread and you can rename it like research for insert the name of your topic. Every time there's a concept that you want to dive into, or maybe a client asks you a question that honestly, you actually don't have the answer, you often get more respect by saying, hey, I don't have a hard answer for you, or I don't want to disrespect you by telling you an answer I don't quite know myself. But here's what I will do. I'm going to go find the leading research, peer-reviewed or reputable research on this topic. I'm going to summarize it for you. And next time we meet up, I'm going to give you an answer and you actually follow up with them. I found that the older I get, the more that I'm willing to admit I don't know what I don't know. And I get more respect from those that I admit that, but then back it up with action to then go close that gap of ignorance. So you might want to start with an opening prompt that looks a little bit like this. I need you to be my research assistant. Give it a little bit more context about what the topic is. I mean, I referred to my seminar that I attended, but it might be about your specific topic or area of mastery. Whenever I have a concept that I'd like to pursue further research, I'm going to drop it into this chat. I want you to memorize all of them, but don't respond with any information yet. At the end of, let's say, a week or at a certain point in the future, I will then prompt you to start dissecting and reviewing the most reputable, reviewed, and sound research relating to it. Is that clear? Feel free to interpolate or just remix the prompt that I've got over here, just something to help you get started. Throughout the entire weekend, every time Dr. John dropped a little nugget or a little breadcrumb for us to go and pursue, I just put it into the thread. And so it started looking like this. All of this won't make any sense to you, obviously, because we were just navigating so many, wild, esoteric, expansive concepts I'd never heard of before. But I just kept dropping them in. And as you can see, my chat just kept saying logged, keep going. So that's all you need to do initially. Step number 2 is then prompt your AI tool with a deep research mode. Again, this does come down to the available functionality of your AI tool. I'm biased in that I use ChatGPT, and at the time of this recording, they have a deep research mode that has been rolled out. If you haven't got this with your AI tool, it may be the equivalent of search the web or another option that is available, whatever the best model is that relates to researching articles in particular. So in my instance, once the seminar had wrapped up after 2 days, I then went back into the thread, turned on deep research mode, and I shared my instructions for the output that I wanted it to generate. And so that looks a little bit like this. Now I want you to provide succinct, plain language summaries of 5 reputable peer-reviewed research papers or links to relevant resources. Because your claims, your theory, or your field may not have peer-reviewed research, and that may be okay, because you might be on the cutting edge or an area that's still being explored. And often peer-reviewed research takes a long time to actually get approved, to carry out the research, and to then to be peer-reviewed years later. But because the internet tends to favor reputable websites as dictated by either the number of links that are referenced or how many people have visited a website over time, it's not a perfect proxy, but it's good to use for now. In the absence of peer-reviewed research, you can then fall back on other articles or reputable websites. So once I hit submit, it took about 10 to 15 minutes to process. As you can see, at least with my model, I was getting a progress bar so I could track along and see how long it was until completion. And finally, step number 3 is to then just reformat and export the results so they're easy for you to access. I ain't got the time to be digging through all of these long abstracts or research papers. I don't have an academic background and I'm terrible at reading long scientific papers. So after sweeping all of these resources, some of these might look familiar. Others, honestly, are links that I'd probably never access or never go to because they're either highly niche research academic papers that wouldn't even be on the first or fifth page of Google search. And it pulled it all together. And then I asked it to compile it and turn it into a format that I could copy and paste into Notion. Now you might be using Google Documents or Apple Notes, whatever your preferred formatting is. I like using Notion simply because it has what's called markdown formatting. You can have dividers, headlines, subheadlines, bullet points, which makes it easier for ultimately readability, comprehension, and most importantly, retention. Now the output might look different. I received a formatted file called a .md file. This basically opened up just like a basic text file. So whether you're on Mac or Windows, it'll open up in your equivalent of like the Notepad or text edit application that you have. You copy all of it, paste it into Notion, and the best thing is it already lays it out, as I said, in that scannable, readable markdown format. So the final result, instead of having to spend $70,000 upwards on a salary for a research assistant, by simply paying $20 a month for my ChatGPT Plus subscription, this process took about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. And in fact, I'm going to include a link underneath this description to show you what my output looked like so you can actually see for yourself how powerful it is to pull this all together and now have a point of reference. This is how it came up. So as you can see, I've got the headings over here, an overview summary, and then 5 of the linked resources, either peer-reviewed research or reputable articles or YouTube links that I can actually scan myself. And so I set a bit of a challenge that every day I'll go to each of these topics and for 10 to 15 minutes, I'd read the summary, click on at least 2 to 3 links, whether I need to read something or watch something, just to help kind of like refresh and have greater recency for better memory retention of these concepts. And so ultimately, my hope for you is that you found a way to start working smarter, not harder. Please take this method, adapt it to your own. I just thought it'd be more valuable showing you a real world example of what I'm doing and how I'm applying this every time I create a piece of content where I feel I'm making a claim that I don't quite have the grounding or the gonads to back it up without having research to actually substantiate it. And because I thought it was worthwhile, I just thought I'd leave you with this powerful quote that Dr. Demartini concluded his entire 2-day seminar with, which he said, every day, ask yourself this question: what is the highest priority action I can take today that will serve the greatest number of people across the world in the most efficient and effective manner with the resources I have available to me? I hope this video has served you, my friend. And if you want to see my raw and candid thoughts on how AI isn't just disrupting or replacing us, but is actually enhancing what we do, head to this video and I think you'll find this one valuable. I'll see you there, my friend.